Okay, so we're starting with brows. I know that a lot of makeup artists or a lot of people like to do things in different orders. I personally like to do my eyebrows before I do the rest of my face. So let's get started. There are a couple of different ways that I like to do my brows. Some people prefer to use eyebrow pencils or something that is now called eyebrow definers, if I'm not mistaken. With the eyebrow definers, they all have a spoolie at the end, and on the other end it has kind of like a triangle shape. And with these, you can't sharpen them, but what the trick is, if you really want a sharp edge to get a precise line on your brows, you take the product, a paper towel on a hard surface, and you just rub it back and forth and just make lines, and it's going to flatten it. The problem with that, it is kind of a waste of product, but you end up with a sharp edge. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but it does make it to where you can really make a really defined line. The other thing that you can use, which is my ultimate favorite, it's a pomade. There are a couple of different companies that make them. Actually, I feel like at this point everyone probably makes it. My favorite for a very long time has been the Anastasia Beverly Hills Dip Brow Pomade. This shade is in dark brown. What you do is you open it up, scoop it out. As you see, I use it a lot, but a little really does go a long way and it lasts you a long time. You scoop out a little from here, you put it in the lid and take it from the lid. Always, when you're using a pomade, keep it closed because it will dry out. Now, a tip for that, if it dries out, take a little bit of oil. It could be a little bit of essential oil, or I like to use a little bit of facial oil. I have a ton of different oils lying around, and I even use, what is this, Josie Maran Argan Moonstone Drops. So there's a lot of different ways that you can, but just use a little, a very little, put it in, stir it up a little with your brush, put the lid back on, you're good to go. Another favorite pomade of mine is from KVD Beauty, which used to be Kat Von D Beauty. That one is smudge proof. It's, if I'm not mistaken, waterproof. It gets the job done. It has quickly become my favorite. Okay, next you're going to need a flat angle brush because that goes with the pomade. And last but not least, if you want to really clean up your brows, then you're going to need a concealer. If you want to do this with me, make sure that you grab whatever product you want to use. I'm going to use the pencil and the pomade. Let's get started. This is the new way that I've been doing my brows. I used to strictly just use the pomade, but now I use the definer, and I'll show you how I use both. If you have any stray hairs that need to not be there, now would be the time to pluck them. When you're plucking your brows, make sure you hold the skin really tight, pull in the opposite direction of the hair. By doing this, the hair will slip out a lot easier and cause you less pain. Now that that's done, because my skin is oily, I do like to go in with the translucent powder. By doing that, it does cut down on the oil and it helps the product stick to the skin a lot better. Okay, I'm going to do this in the best way that I can possible on this brows, that way you can see everything. It'll be a lot easier once I turn to this side and I do it all over again. So the first thing that you want to do to make sure that your eyebrows are symmetrical, we have to remember they're, what the saying? They're cousins, not twins or sisters or what have you. So the first thing that you want to do, take your pencil, you can use a brush, whatever you want to do, and if you put your pencil right here, put it right alongside your nose, and wherever it ends at, that's where you want to make your first line. So the easy way to do that is to already have this rolled up, put it right here, and just gently make your line. Now you want to take it at an angle. I know it looks crazy, but you want to take it at an angle and that's your arch right there. And last but not least, angle it on the outside part of your eye, and this is where your brow is going to end. So now it's just pretty much kind of connecting the dots. So I like to take this and start under the brow, right there. And I go along the bottom of it. So now I've connected this line with this line. And I've lightly connected this one to this one. Now, I don't personally like to go to the top and do that and then fill it in. I like to fill it in now. And by doing that, I kind of leave this inner part blank for now. And I go through and fill in the middle of the brow. Like that. So now that I've done the middle part, let me see if I can do it this way. Now that I've done this part, now I connect this line to that line. And for whatever reason, whenever I use this tail does not get crisp. So I'm going to show you how I fix that in a second. So now I've got this and this together. Now, as far as the front, I'm going to lightly fill that in, just very lightly. Now I take my finger and I just rub it if I've gone too dark. That brow's almost done. This is where the pomade comes in at. Now what you could do, instead of using the pencil like I did, you could just do this whole process the exact same way, but do it with the pomade and the angled brush. So now I'm taking just a little bit out of the lid. Like that. And really what you want to do is make the brush flat when you do it. So now we're going to go over the brow, but now we're going to go under it because I like a really crisp brow. So I'm not going to start right here at the front. I'm going to start here because I want to get a lot of the product off the brush. So as you see, I mainly use the pomade to do the top and the bottom and the tail to darken it. And there you go. Now, as you see, the front doesn't have a whole lot of product, but if you want to add more, just use the rest of what's on the brush and do light strokes. And then I always like to go over it with my finger. If you like, you can take the spoolie and just go through it and drag it through your brow just to lighten it a little so it's not so dark and it looks more natural. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side, and you should be able to get a better idea of what I'm doing and be able to see much better. And if you're wondering why I use the pencil and the pomade, it's just because I like the pencil, but the pencils are usually not waterproof or smudge proof. The pomade is. And the other reason is the pencil kind of looks more natural than the pomade depending on how heavy-handed you are. Alright, so don't forget to measure. Now on this side, I have way less hair here in the front. So remember, put it right next to your nose and make your line. By doing it this way, your brows are not going to be too close together and they won't be too far apart. So there's my line for there. By doing it this way, it should literally come right across your eye. So I'm just going along the bottom of the hair. And I've connected this line to that line. And I've connected this line to that line. This brow is a little bit tricky for me because it is missing so much hair. Please be careful who you go to do your brows. Regardless if it's threading, waxing, or permanent makeup, please be careful. I was a lot younger and I was pretty naive, and I'm paying the price for it. Okay, so now I fill it in. And the good thing about using the definer, because it has so many sides to it, well, it's got 3 sides to it, you can fill it in pretty easily. So for this part, I just hold it straight because it's the widest part of it. And then when I get over here, I turn it to the side and angle it and use just one of the sides. And then I take it through the top. The good thing about this is the technique is the same no matter what product you use. You're always going to measure and make your lines, and you're always going to fill in the bottom and then fill in the rest of the brow and do the top. We're going back in with the pomade. This brush tends to get the messiest because it's literally covered in product. Just make sure after every time you do your brows, or at least every other time, you clean it so that way the product doesn't cake on it and get dry and ruin your brush. So now I'm going under the brow with this to define it more. Okay, so now I definitely have to tone down this one in the front. When I do the rest of my makeup and I put on my foundation, it tones down the brows even more. So that's why I like to do my brows first and then do my foundation. And foundation will be the next video in the series. Now that we pretty much have both brows done, just about, we're going to go through and fine tune each one. So I really do like this one a lot. This one, I want to add a little more pomade to get it to match the other one more. And again, it's because this brow really does have less hair than this one. And while this one's more natural, I don't mind a little drama when it comes to my brows. And of course, this is all personal preference. Okay, so I'm going to take my own advice and put the lid on my pomade because we do not want it drying out, but we are going to leave it close by because now the next step is to clean it up, carve it out with our foundation, and with our concealer. We may want to go back in with more product after the concealer, so we'll see. Okay, when it comes to the carving out of the brows, a lot of people do like to use a concealer that's lighter than their skin tone, lighter than their foundation. I personally like that too, but if I'm going for a really natural look, I will use a color that is the same as my skin tone. So I'm using Studio Finish Concealer from MAC, and I'm mixing shades NW45 and NC50. An angle brush is your best friend for everything. So I'm just going to take it under. Just like that. this is going to help with the shape. It's going to help make your brows pop, and it's also going to clean up any imperfections that you may have. Also, using concealer, it helps if you're in an in-between phase between waxing or tweezing, because it'll help conceal some of the eyebrow hair. Sometimes I do get a little point right there, so I use the concealer to get rid of that point. And then I bring it down and smooth it out with my finger. And that's what it looks like when it's done. Now the trick is to match both sides. There you go. Those are both with my brows. And really, I know this video seemed like it took forever, but of course I was explaining the process to you. But once you get it down pat, it usually takes about 5 minutes to do this. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative. If you have any questions about eyebrows, eyebrow products, or anything, please leave it down in the comments below. Stay tuned in the next video in this series, because I'm going to do my foundation next.